The alien vessel drifted slowly through the dark sea of space, its hull torn and broken, sparks crawling like tiny fireflies across the wounded metal. The ship was old, tired, and shaking with every pulse of failing engines. The crew moved in silence, their faces pale with exhaustion, their eyes filled with doubt. They had sent a request to the nearest human dockyard, expecting only simple repairs, nothing more. Just patches to hold their ship together long enough to return home. The captain sat in his command chair, his hands gripping the armrests, his mind heavy with worry. He had never trusted humans. Their reputation was strange. Some called them reckless, some called them dangerous, and others called them miracle workers. But all he wanted was for his ship to survive one more journey. The beacon had been sent, the answer had come, and now the damaged vessel limped toward the human dock, like a wounded beast seeking shelter. The dock itself soon appeared out of the shadows, a wide structure of steel and light, glowing against the endless dark. Human workers moved across its surface like ants, machines hummed, cranes stretched out their long arms, and the entire station pulsed with quiet energy. The alien crew watched from their windows, whispering to each other. Some were nervous, some curious. None knew what awaited them inside. The ship's metal groaned as it connected to the dock. The locks clamped down, and silence filled the corridors. The aliens held their breath, waiting for the humans to arrive, waiting for the unknown. The airlock opened with a hiss, and a group of humans stepped inside. They carried no weapons, only toolkits, strange carts, and steaming mugs of some dark liquid. They moved with ease, their steps firm, their eyes sharp, their mouths curved with faint smiles. The alien first officer frowned, his mind confused. Tools made sense, carts made sense, but drinks did not. What kind of repair crew brought warm cups of liquid into a dying ship? He turned to the captain, who shook his head slowly, unable to answer. The captain had seen many engineers in his life, but these humans looked more like hosts welcoming guests, not mechanics facing a broken engine. The lead human stepped forward, his hair tied back, his uniform plain, his voice calm. He said they would begin work immediately, no delay, no questions. They had studied the damage as the ship approached. They already knew the weak points, the broken circuits, the twisted hull plates. His words carried confidence, so much confidence that the alien crew fell silent, listening, unsure whether to fear or trust. The humans spread across the corridors like a tide, setting down strange machines that hummed and glowed. Cables ran across the floor. Drones lifted off and slipped into vents. Scanners beeped in quick rhythm. The ship began to feel alive again, not with its own strength, but with the pulse of human industry. The crew stood aside, watching, their fear mixing with wonder. No one had expected such speed, such precision, such boldness. One human placed a strange device near the main engine. It released a low hum that spread through the walls. The broken metal bent back into place, as if obeying a hidden command. Sparks vanished, scars sealed. The aliens gasped. Some whispered in disbelief. Repairs were not supposed to be this fast. Repairs were not supposed to be this complete. Yet the humans acted as if it were routine, as if this was normal for them. The captain finally spoke, his voice low, asking why they had brought cups of liquid when the ship was on the edge of collapse. The lead human smiled and handed him a mug, saying it was called coffee, a drink to keep minds awake and hearts strong. The captain stared at the dark surface, steam rising, a strange smell filling the air. He hesitated, but the warmth in his hands was undeniable, and the crew watched in silence as he raised it slowly to his lips. The taste was bitter, sharp, and powerful. The heat spread through his body, chasing away the chill of fear. His eyes widened, his chest tightened, then relaxed. It was unlike anything he had ever known. He placed the mug down carefully, his mind swirling with questions. Why offer comfort during crisis? Why show kindness when only tools were required? The humans seemed to treat this as more than repair, as if they were building trust as much as fixing steel. The corridors of the ship glowed brighter now, human lights mixing with alien shadows, machines moving like living creatures, the air filled with the sound of drilling, welding, and humming energy. Yet through all of this, the humans laughed softly, spoke with ease, and carried themselves with calm certainty. The aliens exchanged uneasy looks, wondering what these strange beings truly wanted. What price would follow these repairs? What hidden reason could explain their smiles? The captain leaned back in his chair, the mug of coffee warm in his hand, his ship alive with the pulse of human work, and a thought formed in his mind, a thought he could not ignore. Were the humans simply fixing his vessel, or were they preparing it for something far greater, something unseen, something waiting in the shadows beyond the dock? And as the alien crew tried to rest, the question echoed in every heart. Why were the humans not repairing, but building, shaping, upgrading? And why did it feel as if they were not just saving a ship, but rewriting its very soul? The alien ship floated quietly in the human dock, the outside still scarred and worn, the inside filling with strange sounds and lights. Humans moved like a restless tide, their tools singing, their drones darting, their machines humming in steady rhythm. The alien crew stood back, forced to watch as their vessel was claimed by this flood of activity. What they had expected was simple repair, a patch here, a weld there, enough to make the journey home possible. But what they saw instead was something far greater, something they could not name, something that made their hearts race with both fear and wonder. In the engine chamber, human engineers surrounded the core, where cracks lined the walls and energy flickered weakly. The aliens had begged only for repair, begged for the leaks to be sealed and the flow to be stable again. But the humans ignored the request. Instead, they replaced entire sections with new components, polished silver plates gleaming where rusted iron once hung loose, glowing coils thrumming with power where broken circuits had failed. It was not repair. It was transformation. Each part brighter, sharper, stronger than before, as if the humans were not fixing a machine, but creating a new one from its bones. The alien first officer whispered to the captain, asking why the humans worked this way, why they ignored orders. The captain said nothing, his eyes fixed on the sight before him, his heart torn between gratitude and suspicion. Humans were reckless, he thought, reckless and bold. Perhaps they simply did not understand boundaries, or perhaps they understood too well. Perhaps this was not repair at all, but a gift with hidden chains, a trap in the shape of kindness. Yet the captain could not deny the truth. The ship pulsed with a new rhythm, stronger than anything it had known before. Meanwhile, in the weapon bays, humans moved like shadows, placing strange devices on the walls. The aliens watched with wide eyes, for they had not requested this. They had not asked for weapons to be touched. Yet humans worked with quiet smiles, installing what looked like targeting systems, far more precise than the old ones. The alien gunners shifted uncomfortably, their claws tapping nervously against the floor. What if these changes made the ship unstable? What if the humans added something they could not control? Yet the humans never paused, never faltered, their voices calm as they spoke to each other, their hands steady, as if this task was no more complicated than tightening a loose bolt. The crew gathered in the central hall, whispering among themselves. Some said the humans were preparing them for war. Some said this was all a mistake. Others said it was a gift that should not be questioned. Tension grew heavier with every passing hour, and the air seemed to tremble with unease. The aliens had never seen such confidence, such fearlessness. It was as though the humans did not simply fix machines, but breathed life into them, gave them a soul of fire and steel. The first officer asked one of the humans directly, his voice sharp with suspicion, "Why do you replace what we did not request? Why do you build where we asked only for repair?" The human looked at him and smiled, his hand still working as he connected glowing cables. He said only a few words, "Trust us." The officer felt anger rise in his chest, yet the calm tone of the human silenced him, leaving him unsettled, unsure whether to believe or resist. Hours passed, the dock glowed with light, machines whispered through every corridor, and still the humans worked, no rest, no pause, their energy endless, their focus unshaken. The aliens began to feel small in their own ship, as if they no longer owned it, as if it belonged now to those who reshaped it. Coffee cups appeared in every corner, the smell of roasted beans spreading. Aliens who tasted it found themselves awake, sharp, alive, their exhaustion fading. Yet unease did not leave them, for they knew this was more than kindness. It was strategy. It was power, subtle but undeniable. In the control deck, the captain sat with the human lead engineer, maps of the ship glowing on the screens around them. The captain demanded answers. Why go beyond orders? Why pour so much effort into a vessel that was not theirs? The human leaned back, his face calm, his voice steady. He said, "Because we do not repair, we improve. Because survival is not enough. Strength is the only shield that endures." The captain felt the weight of those words, heavy like chains, but also strangely comforting. For deep inside he knew the human was right. Survival alone would not keep them alive in the wars that lay ahead. The aliens returned to their quarters, but found no rest. The sound of human work filled the air like a heartbeat, steady, relentless, unending, and every thrum of energy reminded them that their ship was no longer the same. It was being reborn under human hands, shaped into something stronger, something sharper, something they had never asked for, yet perhaps something they secretly needed. Whispers spread through the crew. What if the humans knew of threats the aliens could not see? What if this was not just repair but preparation? What if danger waited beyond the stars, and the humans had chosen to arm them for it? The first officer could not sleep. He walked the halls, his eyes catching the gleam of new panels, the pulse of fresh power, the soft glow of scanners running tests. He touched the walls, feeling the vibration. It was stronger, steadier, alive in ways he could not explain. It was no longer the old ship he had served on, no longer the fragile vessel they had brought to this dock. It was something else, something new. His chest tightened as he whispered to himself, "This is not repair, this is rebirth." The alien crew began to feel torn, gratitude mixing with fear. They saw strength rising from weakness, but they also saw control slipping from their hands. Their ship was being changed, and with each change came questions they could not answer. Why would humans give so much? Why would they pour energy and time into a vessel that was not theirs? What did they seek in return? Every whisper echoed the same question, and no one could silence it. The captain gathered his officers, their voices low, their faces grim. He told them to watch carefully, to stay close to the humans, to record everything. Yet even as he spoke, he felt the truth press upon him. The ship was becoming something beyond his command, and he could not stop it, even if he wished to. The humans had taken control not by force, but by skill, by confidence, by shaping the ship in their own vision, and all he could do was watch. In the heart of the vessel, the engines roared alive for the first time in weeks, glowing with a strength that shook the walls. The alien crew gasped, their hearts leaping. They had never felt such power, never imagined such speed. It was no longer the vessel they had flown before. It was faster, stronger, deadlier, a beast born from human hands. The humans cheered softly, their eyes bright, their work far from done, but their triumph already clear. The captain stared at the glowing core, his reflection trembling on the polished panels, and a single thought filled his mind, a thought that carried both fear and hope. What if the humans were not simply repairing his ship? What if they were forging a weapon, a warship, a symbol? And what if he had just allowed them to place his people in the middle of something far greater than survival, something that could change the fate of more than just one broken vessel? The work continued, the dock alive with sound, the humans never sleeping, never pausing, and the alien crew realized that this was not repair, not aid, not kindness alone. It was creation, rebirth, transformation, and the true purpose had not yet been revealed, only hidden beneath the steady hum of human hands and the silent promise of power yet to come. The alien crew sat together in the central chamber of their wounded vessel, now filled with the sound of human machines humming and the smell of something strange floating through the air. Steam drifted like mist from cups in the hands of the humans, who walked calmly between broken panels and glowing tools. The aliens stared at the mugs with suspicion, the liquid inside dark as space itself, bitter scent sharp and powerful. It was not food, not medicine, not anything they had asked for, yet the humans handed it to them as though it was a gift more valuable than armor or repair. The first officer raised his hand slowly, his voice uncertain as he asked what the drink was. The lead human smiled and answered with one word, "Coffee." The aliens repeated it softly, the sound foreign on their tongues. They hesitated, their claws tapping the table, their eyes darting from the cups to the human faces. The captain finally lifted one mug, the surface shimmering with heat, and for a long moment he only held it, staring as though it might reveal a secret. Then he drank. The taste hit him with a sharp burn, bitter yet alive, spreading through his chest like fire. His heart pounded, his mind sharpened. He inhaled slowly, his eyes wide, and the crew watched in silence. The humans encouraged them gently, telling them that this drink was strength for weary minds, warmth for cold nights, fuel for long battles. The aliens were unsettled, for they had expected nothing but tools and repair, not hospitality, not ritual, not comfort. The first officer took his turn. He shuddered as the liquid passed his lips. His limbs jolted with sudden energy, his thoughts racing. He gripped the cup tighter, muttering that it was too strong. Yet even as he spoke, he took another sip, unable to resist the strange pull. The captain asked the humans directly, "Why do this? Why give such things? Why treat us as guests instead of clients?" The lead human only smiled again, saying it was natural, saying no crew should face hardship without strength. No soul should work in silence without warmth. The captain frowned, uneasy, for kindness in the void of space was rare. Gifts often carried chains, yet the word struck something inside him, and he could not dismiss them. Around them the ship continued to change. Humans worked without pause, panels replaced, circuits rewired, shields reinforced, but it was the small things that drew the aliens closer. Cups of coffee placed in their hands, laughter echoing from human voices, the simple gestures that made the repairs feel less like labor and more like ritual. The crew whispered among themselves, some grateful, some wary, some suspicious that the drink itself might carry hidden effects, poisons or control, yet none could deny the energy it gave them, the sudden strength in their hearts, the way exhaustion faded like smoke. As the hours passed, the first officer walked through the corridors, cup in hand, watching humans crawling through vents, drones buzzing like insects, cables glowing across the floor. Everywhere he looked, the ship grew brighter, sharper, more alive. He felt unsettled, as if the humans were not only repairing the ship, but rewriting its very nature. He sipped again from the cup, and asked himself in silence, why do they do this? Why so much? Why give more than asked? In the weapon chamber, he found humans installing strange systems, scanners flashing blue light, new panels sliding into place. He demanded to know why they touched the weapons when only engines had been requested. The human closest to him only shrugged, saying that broken claws are useless without sharp teeth, that a vessel must be whole in both shield and strike. The words echoed in his mind like thunder, leaving him shaken, for he knew they were true, yet the truth frightened him. The crew gathered once more in the hall, the humans joining them. Coffee passed around like ritual, steam curling into the air. The captain stared into his cup and finally spoke, saying that something felt hidden, something greater than repair. He asked them directly what their purpose was, what they wanted in return. The lead human leaned forward, eyes steady, and said nothing of payment, nothing of trade, only that survival was not enough, that strength must be built, that weakness was death. In space, the words chilled the crew, for they carried weight, heavy and undeniable, truth wrapped in kindness. The aliens whispered among themselves long after the humans left the hall. Some claimed the drink clouded their thoughts, some claimed it cleared them, some said it was poison, others said it was a gift. The debate rose like fire, their voices sharp, their nerves tense. Yet through it all the captain sat quietly, his claws around the mug, his eyes fixed on the rising steam, his heart torn between suspicion and trust, fear and gratitude, doubt and hope. As the night cycle passed, the crew tried to sleep, but the smell of coffee lingered in the air, sharp and warm, and the sound of human work never ended. Drills humming, welders hissing, panels sliding into place. It felt as though the humans did not rest, did not breathe, did not pause, as though they were machines themselves, and the aliens lay awake in their bunks, wondering if they had invited something far greater than they could control onto their ship. The first officer dreamed of fire in the dark, ships breaking, stars burning, and through the smoke he saw humans offering cups of steaming liquid, smiling as if nothing could touch them. He woke with a start, heart pounding, sweat on his brow, and he whispered to himself, "This is no repair, this is something else, something deeper," and he feared what it meant. The captain too lay awake, the taste of the bitter drink still on his tongue, his mind racing. He thought of the words spoken. Survival is not enough. Strength must be built. He thought of his people waiting at home, fragile and tired, their fleets thin, their enemies many, and he wondered if perhaps the humans saw truth where he had seen only need. Perhaps this gift of coffee, this strange ritual, was more than kindness. Perhaps it was a symbol, a promise, a warning. As dawn's cycle lights brightened, the humans continued their endless work, their laughter echoing, their cups steaming, their machines glowing, and the alien crew rose from uneasy rest, hearts heavy with questions, hands still clutching the cups that had been given, their ship stronger, their bodies sharper, their minds torn. They gathered once more in silence, staring at the humans who moved as if they owned the place. And the captain whispered to his officers, "What are they preparing us for? What storm waits beyond the stars that they see, and we do not?" The hall fell silent, only the hum of engines and the hiss of steam filling the air, and in that silence the crew felt the weight of destiny pressing upon them, heavy and inescapable. They had asked for repairs, but what they received was more, far more, and the question lingered like a shadow, unanswered, haunting. Why do the humans give not only steel and fire, but warmth and drink? Why do they build strength in places where only survival was requested? What is their purpose? What is their plan? And as the ship throbbed with new power, as the smell of coffee filled the corridors, the alien captain realized with a chill that he might not want the answer. The alien captain walked through the dim corridors of his ship, now alive with strange energy. Every corner filled with human machines humming softly, every surface glowing faintly with new light. The air smelled of metal, oil, and that ever-present scent of coffee drifting from human hands. His claws traced along the wall that once felt weak and brittle, but now pulsed with strength. He knew something was happening beyond his command, something he could not stop, something that was reshaping not only his vessel but perhaps his entire destiny. In the weapons bay the crew stood frozen as humans worked quickly. They had not been ordered to touch the weapons. The request had been for engines, for structure, for survival only. Yet here, they were sliding sleek panels into place, wiring systems with cables that glowed like veins of fire, installing targeting modules far beyond alien design. The gunners whispered nervously, their voices shaking as they asked why. Why sharpen claws that were meant only for retreat? Why change the very heart of their vessel without permission? The humans answered with calm smiles, saying simply that weakness invites predators, saying that teeth are useless if dull, saying that survival requires more than flight. The first officer clenched his jaw, his mind filled with doubt and fire. He stepped forward demanding to know what gave the humans the right, what gave them the reason to change a vessel that was not theirs. The lead human only paused for a breath before replying with words that struck the chamber like thunder. "We repair nothing. We only upgrade." The officer felt the weight of those words pressing against his chest, heavy and unrelenting, and for a moment he had no answer, only silence. The captain watched from the shadows, his eyes sharp, his thoughts storming. He wanted to order the humans to stop, to reclaim control, yet he hesitated, for even as suspicion gnawed at him, he could see the truth in their work. The weapons glowed with precision, the shields resonated with new strength, the engines pulsed with a rhythm that felt alive. Everything was better, stronger, faster, and though his pride resisted, his survival instinct whispered that this was not harm but gift, not theft but transformation. In the control chamber the screens flickered with new lines of code. Alien officers frowned as human engineers sat confidently at the consoles, their hands moving with certainty, as if they had trained on this ship for years. Systems came online one by one, navigation sharper, sensors wider, communication cleaner, alarms quieter. The aliens exchanged uneasy looks. Their own vessel was no longer theirs alone. It responded to human hands, obeyed human commands, and yet it did so with a grace they had never known before. The captain's heart twisted, torn between fear and awe. Hours stretched like days, the humans never resting, never slowing, their energy endless, their laughter soft and steady. The alien crew struggled to keep up, their limbs heavy, their minds clouded with worry. Yet every corridor they entered revealed more strength, more power, more change. And every time they tried to object, the humans only spoke two words: trust us. The phrase echoed through the halls like a song, haunting, reassuring, terrifying. The first officer met with the captain in private, his voice sharp, his tone urgent. He said this was dangerous. He said control was slipping. He said the humans were not repairing but remaking, reshaping the ship into something alien even to its own crew. He begged the captain to act, to demand an end, to protect what little authority remained. The captain listened in silence, his claws drumming against the table, his mind torn, and finally he whispered, "Perhaps we need what they build. Perhaps survival requires this rebirth." The officer stared, shocked, his heart heavy. He wanted to argue, but deep inside he felt the same whisper, the same truth he did not wish to admit. Their enemies were many, their fleets thin, their survival fragile. Perhaps this was the only way. Perhaps the humans knew more than they revealed. Perhaps this silent upgrade was not theft but salvation. In the hangar the transformation became undeniable. Drones swarmed across the hull, patching holes, not with old plates, but with reinforced alloys glowing with faint light. Turrets shifted smoothly, with new speed. Thrusters flared brighter than ever. The entire ship throbbed with energy that had never belonged to it before. The alien crew stood in awe, fear mixing with wonder. Their ship was no longer the same, no longer fragile. It had become something else, something stronger, something alive, with human design. The captain returned to the central hall where humans had placed more cups of coffee, steam rising, warmth spreading. He lifted a cup with trembling claws, his reflection rippling in the dark surface. He whispered to himself that this was not the vessel he had commanded. This was something greater, something he did not ask for but could no longer deny. He drank deeply, the bitter taste filling his chest with fire, his eyes burning as he turned to his officers, saying quietly that they had asked for repair but had been given rebirth, and perhaps they should see where it led. That night cycle brought no rest. The ship itself seemed awake, alive, whispering through the walls, humming through the air. The aliens lay in their bunks, staring into the shadows, their minds heavy with questions. Why were the humans doing this? What price would be asked? What hidden truth guided their hands? Whispers spread like wind, some saying it was kindness, others saying it was strategy, a few daring to say it was destiny. In the deepest chamber, where the power conduits met the engine core, the humans worked in silence, their tools glowing, their faces calm. One alien technician crept close and gasped as he saw what they had built. Not just repairs, not just patches, but a new core entirely, pulsing with energy brighter than anything his people had ever known. It throbbed like a living heart, feeding strength into every wall, every wire, every weapon. He fled to tell the captain, his voice shaking, saying that the ship no longer carried the signature of a small vessel. It now carried the aura of a warship. The word struck the captain like a blade, his heart pounding, his mind racing. Warship. The crew gasped when the news spread, their whispers sharp with fear and awe. They had come for repairs, for survival, and yet now they stood within a beast of steel and fire, shaped not by their own hands, but by human will. Some cried that this was a trap. Others claimed it was salvation. The debate raged until the captain raised his hand and silenced them all, his voice low but firm, saying that the truth was clear. The ship had been transformed, and nothing they did now could undo it. He walked alone to the observation deck, staring at the glowing dock around him, the endless dark of space beyond, his claws tightening around the rail, his reflection shining against the glass. He whispered softly to himself, asking what storm lay ahead, what fate the humans saw, what hidden war demanded such strength. And in the silence of the void his words vanished without answer, leaving only the hum of the upgraded ship behind. The silent upgrade was complete in more ways than one, for not only had the vessel been reshaped, but the hearts of its crew had been unsettled, their trust tested, their doubts sharpened, their destiny redirected. And as they stood within the new warship, still clutching cups of bitter coffee, still wondering at the smiles of the humans, they knew only one truth. They had asked for survival, but they had been given power, and power never came without purpose. The alien captain stood at the heart of his vessel, surrounded by the quiet hum of new systems, every panel glowing with human work, every wall breathing with renewed power. His claws gripped the armrests as the lead human approached with calm eyes and a steady voice, saying that the time had come for a test, a demonstration, Not of repair, but of rebirth. The words chilled the air and made the alien crew shift uneasily, their hearts torn between fear and curiosity. The captain asked what kind of test, what risk, and the humans simply replied with a smile, "Come and see." The crew followed reluctantly, their steps echoing through corridors now lined with strange cables and shining metal. Drones hummed past carrying tools no one could name. Panels blinked with new codes that only the humans seemed to understand. The aliens whispered among themselves, voices sharp with unease. Yet none dared stop the march toward the hangar bay. When the doors opened, the sight struck them silent, for outside the docking arms had released their hold, and the ship floated free in the embrace of open space, no longer a broken vessel limping in pain, but something alive, something dangerous, something new. The human engineer gave a signal, and the engines roared, not with the weak sputter of failing power, but with thunder that shook the walls. The entire ship shivered as if awakening from sleep. The crew grabbed rails, their hearts pounding. The captain stared at the displays as the numbers soared, speed rising higher than the ship had ever known, stability perfect, control sharp. He whispered in disbelief that the vessel was flying faster than its design had ever allowed, faster even than the finest ships of his fleet. And yet the humans acted as though it was normal, routine, expected. The first officer shouted that they were moving into an asteroid field, his voice thick with fear. The captain turned sharply, demanding an answer, but the humans only exchanged calm glances, their hands steady on the controls. The lead human replied that the field was the test, that true strength revealed itself only in challenge. The aliens trembled as rocks loomed ahead, massive boulders of ancient stone drifting silently in the dark, each one large enough to crush their ship to dust. The crew braced for impact, their claws digging into the rails, their breath held, yet the humans smiled as if greeting an old friend. The ship moved like lightning, thrusters firing with perfect timing, shields glowing with new light, sensors guiding with precision the aliens had never imagined. The vessel twisted and turned between the stones, weaving with grace, slipping through gaps that seemed impossible. The captain gasped, his heart hammering. Never before had he seen such control, such speed, such elegance. The crew cried out in awe and fear as the warship danced through the field like a predator among prey. Rocks shattered against the shields, sparks rained across the hull. Yet not a single blow pierced the skin, not a single system faltered. The ship was unbreakable. The first officer stared wide-eyed, his voice trembling as he said that this was no longer their vessel, no longer the weak craft they had brought for repair. It was something else entirely, something built to fight, to survive, to conquer. The captain could not argue. His claws shook as he clutched the command rail. He asked the humans why. Why give them such strength? Why risk so much? The lead human answered softly, because survival is not enough, because weakness is death, because you asked for life, but we gave you power. The words struck deep into every alien heart, heavy as chains, bright as fire. The demonstration did not end with the field, for once they emerged into open space, the humans gave another command. Drones carried small drones into the void, targets glowing faintly, weapon systems activated. The aliens shouted in alarm. They had not armed the ship. They had not given permission, yet the turrets turned smoothly, their barrels gleaming with human design, light built within them. The captain cried out to stop, but the humans pressed forward. A single beam of energy leapt into the dark, slicing the target drone into fragments. Then another shot, then another, precise, clean, perfect, faster and deadlier than any weapon his people had ever wielded. The alien gunners stared in silence, their claws trembling. They whispered that the ship now carried the heart of a warship, that they had not asked for this, yet it had been given. Fear and awe burned together in their eyes. Some whispered that it was a blessing. Others hissed that it was a trap. The captain stood frozen, his chest heavy with dread and wonder, as the humans turned calmly toward him, their voices steady as they said, "This is only the beginning." The crew gathered in the central chamber once the demonstration ended, their voices clashing, some praising the power, some fearing its cost. Arguments filled the air. Claws slammed against tables. Eyes burned with confusion. The captain raised his hand for silence, his voice low and heavy. He admitted that they had come for repair, but had received rebirth. He admitted that they had seen strength beyond measure, but he also admitted that he did not know the price, and the silence that followed was heavier than any argument. Later the captain met with the lead human in private. The chamber dim, the only light the glow of coffee steam rising between them. The captain asked what this meant, why humans gave so much, what hidden reason lay behind the gift. The human sipped calmly and replied that no hidden reason was needed, only truth, that survival without strength was a slow death, that they could not let allies drift weak and broken in a universe filled with predators. The captain clenched his claws, his heart torn, part of him wanting to believe, part of him fearing the truth. The ship drifted now outside the asteroid field, gleaming with fresh scars that had not pierced its skin, humming with new life. The aliens stared out of the observation windows at the void around them, their reflections shining in the glass, their hearts restless. The first officer whispered that the humans had given them not repairs but destiny, that the demonstration was not for them but for their enemies who might soon see this vessel blazing with fire. The captain did not reply, his mind heavy, his chest burning with the weight of choice. As the cycle shifted, the humans continued their work, finishing systems, perfecting details, laughter soft, coffee flowing, confidence unbroken. The aliens sat quietly, their voices hushed, their eyes fixed on the humans who moved as if the ship had always been theirs. The demonstration still echoed in their minds, every twist through stone, every blast of fire, every word spoken, "Trust us." The phrase lingered like a song, haunting, unshakable, dangerous. In the silence of his chamber, the captain placed the empty mug on the table, his claws trembling. He whispered to himself that they had asked for survival, but had been given something greater, something far heavier, a gift or a burden. He did not know, but he knew one truth that could not be denied. The humans had shown them a future written not in repairs, but in fire, not in weakness, but in power, not in survival, but in victory. And as the ship pulsed with light, as the void stretched endless around them, the captain closed his eyes and felt the weight of fate pressing upon his shoulders. The demonstration was over, but its echo had only begun, and he knew the path ahead would never again be simple, never again be safe, never again be weak. The ship drifted quietly beyond the asteroid field, its hull glowing with the power of fresh upgrades, its weapons silent, yet ready, its engines humming with strength beyond imagination. The alien crew sat in uneasy silence, their minds heavy with the memory of the demonstration, their hearts torn between fear and wonder. They had seen what the humans had done. They had felt the roar of speed, the fire of weapons, the pulse of power that no longer belonged to their people alone. Now they waited for answers, and those answers arrived not in silence, but in words carried over steaming mugs of coffee. The captain summoned the human lead engineer to the central chamber. The crew gathered close, their eyes sharp, their claws restless, the air thick with tension. The human arrived calm as ever, his steps steady, his hands carrying 2 cups, one for himself and one for the captain. He set the mug down before speaking, his voice calm, his tone heavy with certainty. He said that the upgrades were not gifts given without reason. He said they were warnings wrapped in steel and fire. He said that enemies waited in the shadows, enemies who would strike without mercy if weakness was shown. The crew gasped, their whispers sharp. The captain leaned forward, his eyes narrow, and asked, "How do you know this?" The human met his gaze without fear. He said that human scouts had seen movements along the border, ships gathering fleets, stirring predators, watching like wolves circling prey. He said that the galaxy was shifting, that storms were rising, that no vessel, no people could survive with weakness alone. The captain clenched his claws against the table, his chest heavy. He had suspected danger. He had felt the whispers of war, yet to hear it confirmed chilled his blood. He asked why humans cared, why they would pour so much effort into the survival of others. The human smiled faintly and replied, "Because your survival is tied to ours, because your weakness invites threats to us all." The crew stirred, their voices rising, some claiming the humans spoke truth, others claiming manipulation. The first officer's voice cut through the noise sharp and demanding. He asked if the upgrades were truly for their sake, or if the ship had been turned into a weapon for human use. The human did not flinch. He answered with quiet certainty, saying, "Both." He said, "Strength." "For you mean strength for us?" He said, "A rising tide lifts all ships." He said, "Enemies who fear you will also think twice before striking us." The words struck the crew with heavy weight. for they carried no denial, only truth, simple and undeniable. The captain rose from his chair, pacing slowly, his eyes on the glowing panels around the chamber. He whispered to himself that they had asked for survival, but had been given war. He turned to the human, his voice low, asking what they were expected to do now. The human lifted his cup, sipping slowly, before answering. He said, "You are expected to live, you are expected to fight. If the storm comes, you are expected to hold the line." The captain's heart pounded, for he knew these words were not orders, but destiny. As the ship drifted, the sensors flashed with faint warnings. The officer at the console shouted that unknown signatures pulsed at the edge of range, small, but many, moving in patterns, like hunters circling prey. The crew froze, their eyes wide, their breaths shallow. The captain demanded to know if this was the danger. The human spoke of a lead engineer, only nodded calmly, saying it begins sooner than expected. The crew scrambled to their stations, panic rising to weapons, crew gripping new controls with trembling claws, their eyes burning with fear and doubt. The gunners whispered that they had never trained for such systems, never touched such power, yet the ship responded to their hands with smooth grace, as if it had been waiting for them. The captain barked orders, his voice sharp, demanding readiness, demanding focus. The humans moved quietly, assisting, guiding, teaching. In the moment, their confidence unbroken, their calm unshaken. The first officer hissed at the captain, saying this was the trap, this was the reason for the upgrades, to drag them into war. The captain did not answer, his eyes fixed on the displays. As the signatures drew closer, he knew the officer was half right, yet he also knew another truth. Without the upgrades, without the humans, without the silent rebirth, their vessel would already be drifting toward death, torn apart by the storm that now closed upon them. The humans spoke quickly, their voices clear, directing adjustments to shields, suggesting firing patterns, guiding the aliens through the new systems. The crew obeyed hesitantly, their fear slowly giving way to focus. The ship thrummed with life, the new core burning, bright energy coursing like blood through veins. The captain felt the deck vibrate beneath his claws. He felt the power rising through the hull. He whispered to himself that the vessel was no longer weak, no longer prey. Through the observation window, the crew saw faint lights appear in the distance, hostile ships emerging one by one, their outlines sharp, their intent clear. Predators circling the aliens froze, their hearts pounding, their breath caught in their throats. The captain gripped the rail, whispering that this was the storm. The humans had seen. The lead engineer nodded, his eyes steady, saying, "Yes, and now you will see why we built you strength." The enemy ships spread wide, their signals loud, their weapons glowing. The alien gunners looked to their captain, their claws trembling, waiting for command. The captain hesitated, his chest heavy, his mind torn. Then he saw the calm faces of the humans, the faint smiles, the steady hands holding cups of coffee. Even now, and he felt a spark ignite inside him. He raised his claw and gave the order, weapons ready, fire when the moment comes. The ship roared to life, turrets sliding into place, shields flaring, bright engines burning with thunder. The crew shouted in awe, the systems responded perfectly. The gunners pulled triggers, beams of light slashed into the void, striking targets with precision. Enemy ships shuddered under the impact, explosions blooming in silence. The aliens gasped, their fear breaking into cries of shock and disbelief. Their vessel was no longer a fragile craft, it was a predator unleashed. The first officer whispered that this was impossible, that no ship of their people could fight like this, that no crew could wield such power. The captain looked at him and said softly, "It is possible, because the humans made it so, because they gave us warning before the storm struck." The officer had no reply, his eyes wide, his heart racing, as more enemy vessels broke apart under the fire of their reborn ship. The battle raged, the enemy striking hard, yet the shields held their blows, the new core burning brighter with each impact. The aliens fought with renewed strength, their fear fading, their confidence rising. Guided by human voices sharp and calm, they struck back with precision, tearing through the hunters one by one, until silence returned to the void and wreckage drifted cold and lifeless among the stars. The crew stood trembling in the aftermath, their breaths heavy, their eyes wide, their claws gripping consoles. The captain sat slowly, his chest heaving, his gaze fixed on the humans, who watched quietly, their cups of coffee still warm. The captain whispered a single word, why. The lead human met his gaze and answered softly, "Because you needed to see the truth, because warnings mean nothing without proof, because now you understand what lies ahead." The silence after the battle was heavy. The wreckage of enemy ships drifted like broken bones. In the dark, the alien crew stood trembling, their eyes wide, their claws gripping rails, their hearts pounding. They had survived against all odds, survived not because of old strength, but because of the changes humans had forced upon them. Their vessel now pulsed with energy brighter than anything they had known, its hull gleaming with scars that glowed not with weakness but with power reborn. The captain sat in his chair, his claws resting on the armrests, his chest rising and falling, his mind heavy with what had just happened. He looked across the chamber at the humans, calm as ever, their mugs of coffee steaming, their faces steady, their eyes sharp, as if the storm had been nothing more than routine. The captain whispered in disbelief, "We should have died." And the lead human answered quietly, "You should have, but you did not, because weakness is death, and strength is life, and now you carry strength." The first officer approached, his voice low, and strained, his claws trembling as he spoke. He said, "Captain, this is no longer our ship. It has become theirs. It has become human." The captain turned to him, his gaze sharp, his voice heavy, saying, "No, it has become ours, and there's both. It has become something new, not alien, not human, but born of both, forged in fire, tested in battle, alive with purpose." The officer shook his head, his heart torn, his words faltering, yet deep within he felt the truth he could not deny. The crew gathered in the central hall, voices rising and falling in waves, some crying that they had been saved, others claiming they had been enslaved. The debate clashed like thunder, suspicion colliding with gratitude, fear colliding with hope. The captain raised his hand for silence, his voice echoing through the hall. He said, "We asked for repair, and they gave us more than we could dream. They gave us power, yes, but with power comes choice, and the choice is ours to make. Do we fear the gift, or do we wield it? Do we run, or do we rise?" The humans listened quietly, their faces calm, their eyes steady. When the captain finished, the lead human stood, stepping forward, his voice steady, his words sharp. He said, "The storm is not over. The predators you faced were only hunters on the edge. Larger fleets wait beyond, stronger enemies who will not forgive weakness. You can choose to flee with your strength, or you can choose to stand with us. But know this, the warship you command now will not go unnoticed. Its presence will echo across the stars." The crew froze, their eyes wide, their whispers sharp. The word warship burned through the hall, heavy and undeniable. They looked at their vessel with new eyes, no longer a fragile craft, no longer a patchwork survivor, but a predator reborn, forged with human fire. They realized the truth. At once they had not been repaired. They had been transformed into a symbol, into a weapon, into a beacon that others would fear or hate, or both. The weight pressed on their shoulders heavy as iron. The captain walked slowly to the observation window, his reflection shining against the stars. Beyond, his claws pressed against the glass, he whispered that destiny had changed without their will, yet destiny had chosen them. He turned back to his crew, his voice steady, saying, "We cannot undo what has been done. We cannot return to what we were. We can only move forward, and forward we will go together." The first officer stepped beside him, his voice soft, asking, "What if this gift destroys us? What if it drags us into wars not our own?" The captain replied with fire in his eyes, "It already has, and yet we live, and we will continue to live, because for the first time, we are not prey, we are not fragile, we are not waiting for mercy, we are ready." The humans exchanged glances, quiet smiles tugging at their lips. The lead engineer raised his cup, saying softly, "Then the warship awakens." Now the alien crew felt a chill run through them, the words like a prophecy, heavy and final. The warship awakens. Engines roared alive, thrumming with power, shields flared bright, weapons hummed with fire. The vessel vibrated, as if stretching its wings. For the first time the aliens gripped their stations, their fear melting into resolve, their claws steady, their voices sharp. The captain gave the command, "Lift us higher, take us forward. Let the galaxy see what we have become." The ship surged into the dark, its thrusters blazing brighter than suns. It cut through the void with speed that stunned the crew, their eyes wide as stars streaked past, sensors lit up with signals, both near and far, whispers of fleets, shifting whispers of eyes, watching whispers of powers, stirring. The captain stared at the glowing displays, his voice quiet yet firm, "Let them watch, let them see." The first officer whispered to himself that they had become more than they dreamed, yet feared more than they asked, yet needed. The crew nodded, their eyes locked on the stars ahead. They felt fear still, yes, but fear no longer chained them. It sharpened them, drove them, filled them with fire. Their ship was no longer their coffin, it was their blade. In the silence of the chamber, the humans drank their coffee quietly, their faces calm, their voices soft. One of them said, "Battles will come, storms will rise, but you are ready now, not because of us alone, but because you chose to trust, because you chose to rise." The captain looked at him, his chest heavy, his heart fierce, and whispered, "Yes, we chose, and we will not fall again." The vessel moved faster, stronger, alive, like a beast reborn. The crew sat tall, their shoulders straight, their eyes bright. The captain raised his claw, his voice ringing through every corridor. He said, "We are no longer broken, no longer afraid. We are a warship, we are alive, and we will not kneel." The crew roared, their voices united, their spirits blazing, their ship trembling with their fire. The galaxy around them stretched, endless stars burning, endless dangers waiting. But the warship was awake, its heart of fire pulsing, its claws sharp, its shields blazing. The alien crew no longer felt like passengers on a broken craft. They felt like warriors on the edge of destiny. And though they did not know what storms lay ahead, they knew one truth clear and final. They had asked for repairs, but humans had given them victory. The captain sat once more in his chair, his claws steady on the armrests, his eyes fixed on the horizon of stars, his voice low but certain. "The warship awakens.